Hello guys, this is Adam from the Adam Lab, and today we will be testing 3.0. So about the Blender right here, so it's a 3.00 and that's the beta version, and it's the version for the Apple Silicon, basically the Apple chips. And as usual, the first project that we will be testing is the Red Autumn Forest because it's my favorite project and I still think it's a very beautiful project and very beautiful artwork. And the animation is playing smoothly, no issues there at all, and it's just keeping on a loop for 100 frames. Now I did render for the animation, so I went to the render and then clicked render animation. Some people said in the previous video that when you do render animation, what would happen is when that time shows above is actually for 1 frame, but that is actually not the case. I have did the render and then waited completely for it. It's actually for the whole frames, and you can see the frames are moving right here. Now, one thing interesting about the 3.0, the 3.0 is actually 1 minute faster than the Blender that is 2.9. So the 3.0 right here is faster when it comes to rendering, because the version 2.9, in order to render this full scene frames, it will take around 6 minutes to do it. Yet with this project, it will only take 5 minutes to do it. So I guess there is more optimization, which means there is 1 minute shaved, and we are still on the same Mac, and we are still on the base model, and we are still with 16 gigabyte of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage, and plus that we do have the 14 core GPU and then the 8 core CPU. Everything is still the same, even though just because of the fact that we changed the software and we got a software with a different model, that software do have 1 minute faster performance than the other one. I'm not sure what type of a black magic they did, but that's what you are having right now. Right now we are rendering, as you can see, and if we look at the Apple M1 Pro, the GPU is being used fully 100%, yet the CPU is not even used. Literally what we are using is 1 2 3 4 5 6. Right now we are using 6 cores, and 3 of those cores are not even pushing, and the first 2 cores are not being even used fully. What is being used fully is the GPU. Therefore, you can stay with the base CPU that comes with the M1, but you need to upgrade the RAM, because the higher RAM you have, the more GPU that you get, and you need more GPU. And granted, if you upgrade the GPU and you upgrade the RAM, it will still either way give you a better CPU anyway. So yeah, so just get the better GPU, which comes with a better GPU anyway, plus get more RAM that would give enough headroom to do the rendering and all of that. So I will stop this render, even though we are at 32 frames right now. The fans has not kicked just yet, which is good, because with the other version, definitely by now the fans would have kicked on, but the fans are still, and when I do the playback is still the same. There is no issues. Now let's go and start testing. So we will go to the wireframe first, and then with the wireframe, when I am changing, it's definitely better. It's better than the 2.9. It's a little bit faster. Now keep in mind the camera is recording at 30 frames, so you don't see those differences. You have to take my word for it, but the wireframe with the 3.0 is actually faster than the 2.9, because if you remember in the previous video I said it's a bit laggy. So that's with the wireframe, and from the wireframe we will go to solid, and solid is even faster than before, and I can tell that the solid is at least at 120 frames, and when we go here you can see the GPU is being used to the fullest as well. That's when it comes to the solid, and then we can go to the material preview. Here we are. Simply that's when you render everything, and then we can go to the rendered version as well. So that's that. I believe it's working just fine, and definitely when it comes to the rendered version and viewing the rendered version, the 3.0 is actually faster than 2.9, so that's something interesting. And the engine that we are using is Eevee. I can go to Workbench, and with Workbench it will just change to solid, and it will still be fast, like really fast. I don't think it will allow me to do rendered when I am going to Workbench. And then with cycles, cycles are cycles. It will still do whatever it needs to do and it works just fine. Like even with cycles, there is nothing different when it comes to viewing the project. I can tell here it's just a tiny bit slower, but again, it's not something you cannot work with at all. And that's with the rendering, and with cycles, it's just I don't know, pointies. But yeah, it takes, I guess, a little bit of time for it to capture after you're done. When it comes to Eevee, that's not even a problem. You can do whatever you need to do and then you will be good to go. And that's the first project, which is the Red Forest Autumn. And as I said, rendering the project took 1 minute faster than the version 2.93. So that's that. Now this is a bit laggy. Oh my bananas, the lighting is amazing. Now it's just a bit laggy, but definitely the colors are better than the previous version. The previous version just had a little bit of discoloration, so I guess with this is being more optimized and it works better overall. And I believe it's working at around 45 frames because it's just a bit laggy since right now we are at 60 frames. So overall we are good. So this is Eevee. Let's go from Eevee to cycles. And with cycles, it's faster. It's definitely faster when you are moving with cycles, but you just give it some time for it to render. And then after that, you can go ahead and move with cycles. So I guess cycles is good if you want to just, scroll quickly between your project, but then you just give it a second for it to catch up. But still, that's actually a very good performance overall. We are at wireframe. From wireframe, we would go to solid. Wow, solid is really fast. We would go to material preview, and that's the material preview overall. And we are again still at cycles. Now let's change to Eevee, and then from Eevee, it's just a tiny bit faster. But aside from that, nothing to write home about. It's interesting. With material preview, Eevee is just a bit faster, but with rendered, Eevee is a bit slower. Yes, cycles are faster, but again, with cycles, it's literally a disaster. It's just pixelated, and you need to give it some time in order for it to render. So there is that. And if we take a look, as you can see, with whatever that you do have jumps in the performance, and I believe this dip is when we started using cycles, and then when you give it some time to render, it will go up again. So there's that, and we can actually take that theory into practice. So what I will do cycles, and with cycles, this project is working just as it should. This is a bit weird. Then let's go to Eevee. With Eevee the same, let's go to Workbench. With Workbench it would change, but still the project is doing good. Now what I want to do is just go ahead and play it on Eevee. So basically what would happen is this would be crushed, and then that's it. And the project as a whole, I believe, is 150 frames. And as you can see, it's working without any issues. And the FPS that we are getting above is around 25, which I believe that's the normal speed for the project. Awesome. So we will close that and then be done. And what we will do is lastly, just for sculpting, because I know a lot of people do sculpt using Unreal Engine, using a Blender, and I am one of those people. I am still learning how to sculpt, but overall this is that. And with sculpting, just like the last model, there is no issues with that at all. So let's zoom in, and then when we are zooming in, we can do whatever we need to do. And then if we go to edit mode, and then let's say I would grab something, we grabbed it, and we can do whatever we need to do with it. So when it comes to sculpting, there is no issues at all. You will be good to go on that end. And let me open my sculpting project with the second version of Blender, and then here we have Diva, and then going with the project, there is no issues at all. Let me just move that. So this is Eevee. We can go to Workbench, same thing, and then we can go to Cycles, same thing. So even with my personal project, it's actually open without any issues. Zoom in, and then here we are. And there is no issues at all. Okay, yeah, Honestly, this is like a real world project, and then you can do whatever you need to do with it and then move on all of that. There is no issues at all. And when it comes to the heavier projects, it might just be a bit heavy. And keep in mind, this is the base model. But overall, the performance is definitely better when it comes to the 3.0 rather than the 2.9. A plus, if you can see with the last two projects, when it comes to scalping and then my personal project, the usage for the GPU wasn't even that high. And with the CPU, this is laughable. It's not even breaking a sweat. So as I said before, I will say it again here, go with the base model for a Blender, but just upgrade your GPU and try to get as much RAM as you can get. I think if you go with the upgraded version for $500 more, you still have 16 gigabyte of RAM, but it will be more decent than that. But if you spend the extra money to get the 32 gigabytes of RAM, you will have a machine that is very powerful, and then you will be more than happy with it. You guys stay tuned for the 3.1 to see if the 3.1 is even better than 3.0. This time, let's not do a favorite sandwich. Let's do what is your favorite beverage is. So tell me your favorite beverage, and then aside from that, I will see you professionals very soon. Bye bye.